Hello, I am Gamer Vince, and this is my review of Talisman Digital Edition. It is a board game. It is sort of the way I've heard it described to me is a little bit like D&D meets Shoots and Ladders, and I think I kind of agree with that. This is the digital edition. The reason why I'm doing these reviews is 2 weeks ago, I think, was board game, like official board game day, and there was a humble bundle of board games which I ended up buying, and this was one of them. So I'm just going to be reviewing them one by one and sort of giving my take on them and seeing how fun they are, as well as explaining a little bit how they are played. Most of them are not very complicated, and they can be like fun little diversions. Talisman, this one is out of the ones that I ended up buying, or the ones that were part of the bundle. This one is my favorite, so I thought I'd start out with this one. That said, there's a couple of problems with it, and it's maybe not the best game, but it's a fun little diversion. So that's what I'm going to be going over here. Alright, so I'm going to be starting a new game for you. During setup, you can pick, who do you want to play against, and you can play against local players or AI players, and you can, I think, play online as well. I think that is an option. Yeah, online play is an option. I'm going to just be doing a regular, quick playthrough for you. One thing that I'm not a huge fan of in this game is that there's a large amount of DLC, so that when you buy the game, you're not going to really have access to a lot of content. There's a lot of stuff that you kind of have to pay extra for. And I'm usually not a fan of that. I kind of feel like, especially when they're really simple DLCs that just add like characters and things like that, I don't know, I feel like that should maybe be part of the game. But the base game has enough variety with it that I think that can be excused. Like here you see the characters that I have available. The ones that have like the color filled in, those are characters I have, and if you see them like blinking yellow down here and then gray, those are characters I do not have, that I do not have access to. And I do all have access to the pirate and the ninja. And I think I'm going to be playing a character that I don't normally play, just to sort of, see what happens. I'm going to do the assassin. The assassin gets into fights with lots of other characters. By the way to read these, like they have special abilities that each character has. The assassin can basically, it gets to assassinate characters that not quite sure, that the assassin attacks. And basically, when I assassinate, my opponent can't roll a die to add to their strength. And if I win, I have to force them to lose a life. So, I basically go and assassinate characters, which, to be perfectly honest, isn't that terribly good. But I'm going to be playing one-on-one to make the game kind of go quicker. So, every little bit that I hurt my opponent by helps me. So that's kind of what the assassin does. The way to rate what these stats here, by the way, down do is that strength and craft are your main skills in the game. Everything you do is pretty much going to be a strength or craft test. And in a fight, you roll a 6-sided die, a d6, and add your strength to it, and then you compare that to your opponent's strength plus d6. Of course, I'm an assassin, so they're not going to get that 6-sided die, so that's going to give me a big advantage. Craft pretty much works the same way, but craft is also used to determine how many spells you can have. So the higher your craft, the more spells you can have, up to, I think, a maximum of 3. You can never have more than 3 spells. Lives is kind of a misnomer to me. Lives is hit points. If you run out of lives, you die, but if you lose 1 life, that doesn't really do anything to you. You're down a life, but you're not dead. So I think lives should be called hit points. Fate is just used, you're rolling a lot of dice in this game, and that's my biggest problem in this game, is that you're rolling just a lot of dice. A lot of it seems to be kind of like random luck. Though Fate helps you skew that a little bit. Fate, you can spend a Fate point to re-roll a 6-sided die once. You can only do that once. You can't just keep rolling until you get what you want. And gold is just how much gold you start the game with. And I'm pretty sure every single character starts with 1 gold. Like, if you're keeping your eye on this gold number here, I'm cycling through the characters. Yeah, pretty much all of them have 1 gold. I will say, though, that I've noticed that some characters just seem to be better than others. Like the Prophetess here is my favorite character because she has the ability, you're drawing a lot of sort of random cards. The vast majority of the game, you are drawing these adventure cards, and she has an ability that she can just ignore an adventure card and draw another one. So if you get something bad, you can kind of cycle through adventure cards, which is amazingly useful. That's just very, very good. That, and on top of that, as if that by itself wasn't good enough, she also has at least one spell at any time. Which means, you know, if you can cast a spell, you can just cycle spells. There's a couple of characters that have that ability, including like the Wizard, I think the Sorceress? No, I think Sorceress doesn't have that. But like other characters do have that ability. But the Prophetess just has that as a little extra, so she's very powerful. But anyway, we're going to play the Assassin, and we're going to play against a random opponent. One thing that I like about this game is that during your playing of the game, as you play the game, you unlock these runes. And what these runes do is they're little buffs for your characters. Like this one is, I get an extra starting life, so that's kind of nice. Oops, I just took that out instead of adding it. And like this one, for instance, is in the game you increase your strength by trading in trophies. Normally you have to trade in trophies at 7, and this allows me to do it at 6. So, you know, like they're little buffs. They don't make a huge difference, but they are kind of a reason to keep playing the game again and again. So I like that. Alright, and this is pretty much all the setup we're going to have. There are a bunch of other things you can play with. Like one thing this is considered under house rules, like runestones, the things you saw me just put in there, as well as no more lives. To be perfectly honest, I think I'm just going to do Race for the Crown this time around. So the point of the game is to get to this central crown, and basically once they're there, you've won. In the sort of basic game, you have a 50-50% chance of dealing damage to all other players, and your goal once you reach the crown is to kill all other players, using basically the crown to kill them. To be perfectly honest, that gets kind of boring when you're just sitting at the crown and you've got, like I said, a 50-50 shot and you're going up against like a troll who has 7 hit points. So that's just going to be like somewhere around 14 rounds you're just sitting there rolling a die hoping that the troll dies, which can be very boring. So I'm instead going to do Race for the Crown, where if I'm assuming, I've never actually played Race for the Crown, I've just always done the sort of, I guess, true variant. But for Race for the Crown, first person to the crown just wins, which, to be perfectly honest, is what it kind of is anyway. And here it's like, hey, buy these expansion packs, they're really cool, we can give you stuff for money, which I kind of find that I don't like having that in my game, but the game is very cheap. Like I spent, I think, $7 to get six games. So if you split that, this game was like less than $2 for me. So that's no problem. All right, we're gonna go back here. Yeah, I think we're ready to go. We're gonna have one random opponent. We'll see what they are. All right, let's just get started. I've currently got a save going, but that game wasn't going so well anyway, so we're just going to overwrite that. That's fine. You can only have one game. So we're against the Druid. I know the Druid pretty well. The Druid's kind of cool. Oh, well, right off the bat, he's going to cast a spell on me, and it's one of my least favorite spells, Random. I feel like this spell should be the poster child for the game. Whenever you have to do something, your options are going to be listed on this right corner over here. In this right side panel. And notice that I have to roll the die. Like I can also click up here to roll the die, but every time you have any options, they're going to be listed here, so I just kind of pay attention to this side screen. So I have to roll a die. So this would be really terrible. I would become a toad for 3 turns, which basically would mean I couldn't do anything for 3 turns, and that really sucks. So I'm going to spend a fate point to re-roll that die and instead lose all strength to excluding my starting value. Considering that I'm at my starting value, that does nothing. So that was way better. A fate point well spent. So the Druid just cast that spell there. So the way this game works is that to start with, see, you're on this map and you start the game on the outside here. And what you're basically doing is you're trying to build up your character, trying to build up your strength and craft, maybe get a couple of followers and items and things like that, and work your way to the center of the map to this space here, the Crown of Command. And the first thing you have to do is you have to cross the river. So you're stuck on this outermost territory, this outermost region, just going like, encountering random things. And then you have to cross the river somehow to get to this inner tier, and then after that you have to make it past this portal of power by having either a high strength or a high craft. And then once you're inside here, there's various challenges you go through here. There's kind of like one path for craft and one path for strength. And first person to get to the Crown of Command wins. So it's kind of like a role-playing game, an RPG kind of thing, where you're basically trying to build up your character, build up your stats. When you roll the die, you usually have two options. You can either go, you can go one way or the other, and it's highlighting the spaces that I can go to. And neither one of these spaces is particularly good. You can click on spaces and I'll tell you what they do. Like the chapel is, if you're evil, you lose 1 life, and considering that my character is in fact evil, which is indicated right here, yeah, I'm not going to go there. So instead I'm going to go here. And there it's just something's going to happen. So you will notice very, very quickly that the game is very dependent on chance. So I just got to the tavern, which is an excellent example of how this game is just completely dependent on dice rolls. So I rolled a 3, which means I'm going to gamble and lose my only gold. Yup. I don't even have a choice here. I can't be like, am I going to gamble? Am I going to get in a fight with somebody? No choice. You just roll a die and it just happens. I'm not going to spend a fate point because I think a fate point's more valuable than the gold. So I'll just, yeah. And it might not even improve my situation any. Oh, so he just got to like a really good space. In this space, you encounter 2 cards instead of 1, which is the only one of its kind on the outer region, the ruins. I do have this game set to go as fast as possible. The computer player is going to take a turn very, very quick, so I can get back to my turn and do stuff with in my turn. So I rolled a 6 again. I don't want to roll a 6. You may notice that the corners of the map have special places that aren't adventure cards. I want to get to adventure cards because that's where really the action is. But yeah, or I guess we're going to go to the village here and see what happens there. We have to go to the Mystic. At the village, you can go to the blacksmith if you have money, or to the healer, but both of those require money. And since I have no money, I have to go to the Mystic. And again, we're going to roll a die to see what happens. The Mystic, though, fortunately, there's nothing bad that can happen. And see, I'm gonna become good. My assassin has mended her or his ways. I still don't know. I can't quite identify from the picture. But I've now become good. So, it doesn't really feel like I have a lot of agency over what's going on. I can pick a direction to go in, but when the choice is roll randomly at the Enchantress, where I could become a toad, lose strength or craft, or roll at the Mystic, where there's nothing really bad, but there are some positive things that can happen. I feel like going to the Mystic was just a no-brainer. So yeah, that's what I do. Another thing that I don't particularly like about this game is that AI players, you can't really set the difficulty. You can set how many AI players you have, but you can't set their difficulty, so that's kind of unfortunate. So you may notice here that I have the choice of trying to get past to, notice that this says, this is in red. And the reason why that is that one way to get across the river is to fight this Colossus. I think it's called the Colossus? Sentinel, excuse me, the Sentinel. It's basically the Colossus of Rhodes kind of thing. It's just this giant stone statue thing that you have to fight in order to get to the inner ring, and it's got a strength of 9. So there's literally no way I could beat it with a strength of 3. With a strength of 3, I could get up to a maximum of 9, and with a strength of 9 that it has, it's got to roll a die, and it's going to get at least a 1 on that, so it's got a minimum of 10. So I literally can't beat that yet. There's no point in even trying. So I'm going to travel here because I'm going to try to stick close to the druid and maybe assassinate him once or twice. Alright, so that's really unfortunate. So this phantom is going to give a bonus to any evil character, to the first evil character that makes its way here, and I was just turned good by the Mystic, so that's unfortunate. So I encounter it and nothing happens because I'm not evil. So I haven't really... Oh, well, there's the druid. Yeah, the druid, by the way, his special... What did the... Druid? Alright, so the druid's special ability is to change alignment at will, and the druid starts off with a neutral alignment. And then basically as the druid, you can make yourself whatever alignment you want as the situation requires. So when he came here, I honestly thought that he was just going to encounter this thing, turn himself evil, and get the bonus from it, but did not do that. That's not a thing that this druid did, so that was not very smart of him. Sometimes the AI does kind of silly things like that. So I think overall it's pretty good. Again, here we have a non-choice. You have this forest here where you roll a die, and more likely than not something bad's going to happen. You're going to get attacked, you're going to lose your turn. You might be safe. There's a small chance that you might gain a craft. But here in this forest, in these woods, you're going to draw an adventure card, and those tend to be at least halfway good, like most of the time. So I don't really feel like I have much of a choice here, and I don't want to spend a fate point to re-roll the die. So we're going to draw an adventure card here. This is going to be the first adventure card I'm encountering. So these are very common. They're monsters. They have a strength. Sometimes monsters have a craft, and you have to fight them with whatever skill they have. And this is one thing I do quite like about the game, is that the artwork is pretty nice. I like the sort of medieval fantasy theme that it's got going on here, and the artwork is kind of varied. Some of the artwork kind of looks more old school, like 80s D&D, and then some of the other ones look a little bit more modern. Like this one I think looks a little bit more modern. So the artwork is quite good. So you got to encounter it. I don't even have a choice there. I can apparently assassinate it, presumably because I'm attacking. And now that I'm assassinating it, I'm going to win this fight no matter what. Because again, under normal circumstances, we would both roll a die, and whoever has the higher total wins. But because I'm the assassin, I can make him not roll his die. So I'm just going to auto kill him. So I just win. By the way, in case you're just noticing that when I'm playing mythical games, I go by the name of Mithrion. That's just my profile name in this case. And notice I got like an achievement for assassination. I think that's Steam. I'm not sure if you can see that, but I just got a Steam achievement for assassinating using the assassin's ability. And there are nice little achievements. What I like about this game is that the game does incentivize you and give you all kinds of little things for playing it over and over again. So the druid, I think, is about to lose this. Nope, it's going to be a standoff. So when you have... Oh, he's used a fate point to reroll and win. Okay, that's fine. But if you tie with your opponent, it's a standoff and nothing happens. And cards, by the way, are encountered in order of... I forget if it calls it initiative or what exactly it calls it. But something like that. And monsters tend to be really high initiative, as in you're going to have to fight them first if you want to encounter the rest of the cards at this place. So, yeah, another thing that I like that this game does is that it leaves the cards on the board. So this phantom is still here, and you can look at it at any time. So I think that's really good that they did it. Notice like the hermit that was played earlier, in case you were wondering what happened, is that the druid encountered this hermit and it rolled a die, and that just determined where the hermit goes. And the first person to visit them is going to get a talisman, which kind of invalidates an entire part of this game. So I didn't mention this before, but actually in order to get to the Crown of Command, you need a talisman. And that's what this up here and over here is for our characters. This will be filled in when we have a talisman. Yeah, you're supposed to like try to get a talisman. Fight your way to get a talisman so that you can win the game, because you can't get past this part right here. It says you must have a talisman to enter. So it's supposed to be, I guess, relatively difficult to get a talisman. The talismans are just handed out kind of randomly throughout the game. The only reliable way to get it is here at the Warlock's Cave, where the Warlock will essentially give you a quest, like kill an enemy or discard a follower. Again, the quest is assigned randomly. And it might be like get 3 gold or discard a magic object, what have you. And once you complete that quest, you get a talisman. That's basically what it says there, and that's the only consistent way to get it. But of course you have to land there, and then you got to hope that you can complete the quest relatively quickly. So the game is very, very luck dependent. But to be perfectly honest, I kind of feel like, I mean, that's obviously intentional, and there's a little bit there, you know, there's a little bit of fun to be had there. So I just got a follower. I should mention this now, is that the cards that you have are listed here. Like you see, my opponent has 1 blue card, which are spells, and 2 objects, which are like, well, I think it was like armor or something. And you can look, I think you can look at them at any time. Yeah, he's got like a wand, and we both have trophies. He's got a goblin trophy, which has a strength of 2. Again, you can trade in trophies. Like basically the point of killing monsters is to accumulate enough of their points that you can trade them in for higher strength. If you trade in 7 points worth of strength creatures, you can gain 1 strength, and if you turn in 7 points of craft creatures, you get a point of craft. Of course, I have that little upgrade. That means I only have to trade in 6 strength, so that's a nice little thing there. Alright, great. I get to finally go to the ruins. So the ruins are the only place, like the vast majority of these spaces on the outside is draw 1 adventure card. Like it says that everywhere, except the ruins. You get to draw 2 adventure cards, so that's good. Oh, that's a really good item. That's 2 craft there. And then the lion is a little bit, actually, I think I'm just going to assassinate the lion, right? Yeah, I'm just going to assassinate and auto kill. Assassin's a lot better than I thought he would be. I'm just going to assume it's a he. Again, I'm not really sure. You can't really tell from the face. It's got the long black hair, but I don't know. I'm just going to assume it's a he. And I get the Solomon's Crown. So you may have noticed that the adventure cards really random as to what they might be. Sometimes it'll be like, oh, you know, plus add 2 to your craft. Fantastic. That's a really good item. And then other times it'll be like, oh, poltergeist. It does something horrible to you. So it could be good or bad. And you usually don't have a choice of whether you encounter them. Alright, so I have 6 strength worth of cards here, so I'm going to trade them for strength. And now I have +1 strength, so I'm doing pretty well here. With 4 strength and 5 craft, I'm doing pretty well. In my experience, craft is better than strength for winning the game. Pretty much only because of 1 space, and that's death. Dice with death. That there's a space here. Once you get into this area here, you either got to go left here or up here, and it's going to depend on whether you are really strong or whether you're really crafty. If you're strong, you're going to go up this way because you have to just fight things and have to have lots of strength. See here, for instance, at the crypt, you roll 3 dice and subtract your strength, and you're trying to get to 0 or lower. So the higher your strength, the better. Because otherwise you're just going to get pushed back. But the problem is, after this strength test, there's this death challenge that you just can't prepare for. You basically roll 2 dice, once for yourself and then once for death, and whoever rolled higher wins. So you're literally rolling 2 dice twice and hoping that the first time you rolled was higher. There's no way to prepare for that. You could be stuck there and it might kill, and every time you fail you lose a life, so it just might kill you. So I really don't like that bit because there's no way to prepare for it. On the other hand, on the craft side, you can prepare for everything. If you have really high craft, this is the same as the crypt. If you have really high craft, here you lose a maximum amount of like 3 lives, but it will eventually, if you have 4 or more lives, you're fine there, and you can get more life. And then the pits, you fight a couple of things. So that's fine too. You can prepare for that by having a high strength or being like me, who assassinates just things. Yeah, but there's no preparing for this one. There's just no prepared. There's no mitigating that. You might just be stuck there forever and die, which has happened to me. Not that I'm bitter or anything. Alright, so let's keep going with the game here and seeing how this game goes. Because, like I said, it's actually quite a fun game. See, like, for instance, here I got tipsy and I'm going to fight a farmer. And I really just like the picture of the farmer. He looks kind of ridiculous. It's just like, I am an assassin. I have cloak and dagger and I just look evil. And there's this tavern farmer who's just like, oh, I got a pitchfork. And you know, I just basically, I don't know what I did to him, but it was bad. And I'm like, I win. So, yeah, it was also kind of pointless. You don't get to take the farmer as a trophy. It wouldn't be much of a trophy. All right, so we're gonna end our turn here. So the basically the point of the game is to, you know, make it to the crown before your opponent. And the druid here is doing pretty well. We've got the same amount of craft, and he's down 1 strength from me. And here, by the way, it tells you, like, he's got a basic of 2. He's got a base of 2 strength, plus he's got an item. That item he just picked up that gives him extra strength. And like for me, that's just my base strength because I've improved my base strength. That's why it's also in green, because that number went up. Again, the forest here is kind of terrible because, like, 5 out of 6 times, either nothing or something bad's going to happen. There's only 1 good result. So instead, I'm going to go look at an adventure card. There's like a lot of these kinds of non-choices. Okay, so this blizzard is just all it does is we're all going to move 1 space a turn as opposed to rolling our movement die, which is good for him because he gets to go take the fairy. This druid is not understanding how his ability works. I'm pretty sure the fairy blesses a good character. And the druid could make himself good if he wanted to, but I guess he chose not to. Alright, well, we're going to assassinate this bear. Assassinate, auto-kill, no problem. Most of the creatures around here, there's a lot tougher creatures. We're encountering sort of a lot of the wildlife, like lions, wolves, a couple of goblins and things like that have relatively low strength, but they're much, much tougher opponents. Actually, in fact, I'm about to fight a tougher opponent right here. Because if I could kill this ogre who has strength 8, that's 8 points that I could potentially convert to strength. So we're going to assassinate, but we're still going to have to roll the die. Because if we roll a 1, it's actually a standoff. Okay, we rolled a 1. Really? So I'm going to spend a fate point here because I really... There we go, that's much better. So now we beat him. And now we can trade in things for strength again. We can trade in these 2, and that's a little bit overkill because this is 8 points worth of cards and I only need 6, but that's fine. We're going to do that anyway. So you're kind of getting the gist of how this game goes, I hope, at this point. And I think I'm going to cut this video short. I'm not going to go through an entire game of Talisman because I don't think it's that exciting to watch, but it is quite fun to play. So I think this would be a good time for me to go over what I just quickly what I like and what I don't like. What I do like is I like the artwork, the combination of sort of this old, to me, like 80s, 70s sort of art style, plus a couple of modern things. I think it looks relatively pretty. I like the sort of role play aspect of it, that you're building up your character and you're trying to get objects and you're building your character from, like, you start off relatively humbly and you make your way to becoming a more powerful character. I like that kind of feel of it, and I like the sort of feel of the game in general, sort of the lore it's got here and the sort of fantasy theme. I'm kind of a sucker for a lot of these fantasy themes, so I think that's nice. Then what I don't like is that it is very luck dependent. You're rolling dice a lot. You can't adjust the AI for your computer. Like, I can't make this druid any smarter. He's always going to, like, you know, he should have taken these. He should have gotten them and gotten the bonus for them because he can just switch his alignment, but apparently he's forgotten that he has that ability. So, you know, I can't. Sometimes the AI derps a little bit. You know, I don't like that. I don't like that all over the menus are advertisements for their expansion packs and for the DLC saying, like, buy me, buy me. I'm not a huge fan of that. If I bought the game, I kind of feel like there shouldn't be ads in it. But I think in general it is a pretty fun game. If you don't take it too seriously and if it's more about the journey than the destination, I think you can have a lot of fun in this game. So... and I kind of taught you the basics of it. What you're basically just trying to do is trying to race here. And you kind of got to know, like, knowing the cards and playing it a couple of times helps you a whole lot. But I think in general it's a pretty fun game, and it doesn't look half bad. It has like nice little animations going on here, and it's not bad for a cheap little board game adaptation. Or digital adaptation of a board game, I think it gets the job done. So I quite like it, and I think it's a fun little diversion. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll be reviewing some of the other board games, digital board games next.